Hi everyone. So now we are going to look at creating a client in HMIS Part 2. So far, we've already backdated to the day we needed our client in the system, searched for him in client point, didn't find him, created him, and as you see here, these houses, they stand for they were created by your provider, which is also a good indicator that the client's been working with you or another one of your case managers. It's just a good signal for you to see. Okay, we're going to do the same thing we did before, and instead of clicking on end backdate mode or set a new backdate, we're going to keep it on the backdate we have it on. And remember, it's yellow on top when we do backdate. So now we already did all of the summary information, which is carried forward from the client record and the client demographics section. So we did very well with that. Next tab is households. So because Mickey is new in the system, he does not have a previous household connection. If Mickey was not a single individual, then we would want to start a new household. And if he had a previous household in here, we would want to manage that household and edit it. He wouldn't have that because he's new. However, if you do come across a client that was in a household and is no longer in a household, or just need general information on how to update the household, there will be videos for managing households. However, please feel free to give the Rhode Island Coalition for the Homeless HMIS staff a call at any time, as the household tab can sometimes seem overwhelming. Okay, so going in order, the next tab is ROI. ROI stands for Release of Information. In client creation, we talked about how you want to make sure you get client consent before you even search for their name in the system. You want to make sure you at least have their verbal consent when you're searching for them and putting basic information in, and you want to try to get a signed release of information as soon as you can. So we're going to go in the ROI tab, which stands for Release of Information. We also see on the top that it says None, and it takes us, if you were to click on it, it would take you right to this tab because it's telling you that Mickey Mouse does not have a release of information for this provider. Okay, he could have signed one with a different provider, but not for you. So now you need to add a release of information. Now, again, if he was part of a household, we would select those household members. But for this, the release of information, this is the correct provider. If I find myself having to click search to find a different provider, then I know I'm not entering data as. If I need to enter data as or click search for a different provider, I want to make sure I do that before I work on the client's profile. Okay, and we're going to say Mickey does grant release for us to collect his information and sign the form. However, just to note, if your client does say no, please put no, continue filling this out, and give us a call so we can lock down the record. Okay, if you do select yes, then you want to put a start date of the date they signed the release. So in this case, we're going to say it's today. And the end date for emergency shelters or some programs are only a year. However, it's important to note that regardless of the date you put here, 1 year, 2 year, 5 years, 10 years, the release of information that the client expires when the client withdraws it in writing. So even though there's an end date here, this is just for your program's sake to say that you have gotten a release of information. You're confirming it's signed or you're confirming you have verbal consent as of this date, but it's up to you to make sure you get that signed document for your program that she's covered. Okay, so just because she signs one document for your organization, every program that she's entered to in HMIS is just a confirmation that you have permission to put this client's information under a different provider. All right, so for now we're going to put 1 year as an end date for our releases. And we want to do a signed statement from clients. So since the client has signed their release of information, and we are going to put our name as the witness. Usually, if they give verbal consent, then we would select that. You still want to make sure you type your name as the witness for this verbal consent. And we put save release of information. And what we notice on the top is that it says now instead of none, it says release of information ends 12/25/2019. So a year from the date. Now, if I was somewhere else on the page, I could click this and it'll take me right to the release of information. If I did have the signed release on file, I would want to make sure that I find the release here, and I click on the paperclip right next to my provider's release that matches the start date on the release form. Click this attachment, add new file attachment, and browse for it. So I would have scanned the release of information into my computer and uploaded it directly from here into HMIS. Okay, and ROI. And then you just click upload. And when you click upload, the release of information goes into the system. Okay, and you can click exit. And now you know the release of information is in the system. Now, before we go to the entry exit, we know how time consuming that can be. So we want to make sure we go to case managers. Okay, within the case managers tab, if you will be assigned this person's case manager, please select add case manager. Now, if this client was a part of a household, you'd see other household members here, but he's not. For this, you never want to have to type anything in or fill any of this out. All you have to do is select me, okay? And it fills it in for me, okay? And I'm still working with this client, so although the start date's pre-populated, I'm going to leave the end date blank. And now I click Add Case Manager. And now you see that I am the case manager and I am not ended, okay? Now we go back to the entry exit. So we want to add an entry to our program. The household members, this says the client is not a member of any household. If he was in a household, you would have to select the other members if you'd like to join them in the entry. Again, the provider is here. If I have to click search, I do not want to continue. I want to make sure that whenever I'm doing an entry exit, that I am entering data as the correct project, or I am already defaulted as the correct project as I am here. Okay, this is the project that Mickey is entering. So this is the project I need to enter data in the system for him. He did not give me permission to do it for any other programs. Okay, so the type for most of our programs are HUD. We are not going to go through an entire entry as the time does not permit. We will do another video as far as entry exits and different project types. Okay, and the start date is the date the client entered the program. Now, because we did 12:25 at midnight, we're just going to keep it like that and do save and continue. So now these questions, all of these questions have to be answered by you right now at date of entry. Okay, so hopefully you're able to collect it at entry. Otherwise, try to find a way to collect this information and come back and fill in this information at entry, which means you would want to backdate and make sure that you are under the right program. As I said, there will be other videos going through these specific questions. And then you would click Save and Exit to answer these questions now. Try to hit yes if you have answers to them. If not, then you just click No. And you've successfully entered this client into your program. And you know that you've only entered this one client because it says your program, the project type, the project start date, and then client count over here we see is our one client, Mickey George Mouse. If he was in a family, other household members would show up here. Okay. After that, you would want to do a case plan. Whatever the basic goal of your program is, for us it's to look for housing. It's a very broad goal. So what we want to do is add one in here to say this is the main goal we're going to work on. Because it's very early in your work with him. Maybe you won't remain his case manager, but Mickey's just presenting and we already know he has a goal of finding housing. So the case manager in the drop-down list, it will only show your name here if you have assigned yourself case manager. So you want to make sure that you are still assigned as case manager. If you were to see asterisks to the left side of the name, that means it's an old case manager. So if you see an asterisk to the left side of your name and you're still working with this client, that means you are still working with them but have an end date to your case management assignment on their case manager tab. So we have housing for classification, and the type is also going to be housing. And our goal description, this is not required, even looking for housing. I like to put my initials after every note because it's an indicator to me that I wrote that. Okay, we do not have a target goal. Right now, we are still working on the goal, so it's in progress. It's not identified because it means we've identified he's looking for housing, but we're not doing anything about it. It's in progress because we've identified he is looking for housing and we're working on him. We're going to be working on him to engage in this goal. Okay, and we don't need to answer any of this because this is if it's closed. A follow-up date is if I wanted a reminder to show up on my homepage about either a meeting I want to have with him or something that's required. So for example, I know that a full SPDAT is going to be due on this client in 14 days. So for me, I would come to the calendar and click on 2 weeks from this date. So I would click on January 8th, 2019. Okay, the follow-up user is still going to be me. The follow-up made and date completed and outcome, this is when I'm done following up. This is going to give me a reminder on my home page. Now we click Add Goal. And now this is where you can add your case notes. So I just met George. So I'd write a brief note. Mickey, George, Mouse. Mickey, George, Mouse, today. And then you would write what you discussed or whatever your organization's case plan format is, the times you met, anything else personal you want to put in here that you guys discussed. We do know that you set a reminder in here, so you kind of want to put a note in here for yourself that you did that. And I always, like I said, put my initials at the end. Although the system records who does what, sometimes it's easier just as quick glance to know if that was you that put that note in. Okay, and then your case notes are here. Action steps are not required, so we're going to skip that for the moment. For now, we did everything except our services. So every time you meet with your client or you provide your client a service, you want to make sure you add a case note, but then also a service. When you click Add Service, a pop-up comes up and it says this will close the goal pop-up and take you to the service transaction page. You just want to click OK. Everything's already going to be saved that you put in here, so just click OK. And now it'll take you here. Now remember, it's still yellow because we're still backdating. If these are services I provided to Mickey after his entry, then I would not be in backdate mode. Okay, so the service type, I'm going to put housing search assistance because this is a housing locator program. And we're not going to do a provider-specific service. Some providers will have drop-downs, some will not. These are agency-specific requested ones and not required. So now if we click Save and Continue, it takes us to this page. Okay, we see that the start date and end date's the same. That's okay unless your supervisor requests that you actually put the exact start and end date of your client meeting. That is on a case-by-case basis. Service notes. So these used to be used as case notes. It is very important that there is nothing personal that goes into service notes. So for example, if I give my client a bus pass and I put a service in here that says bus pass, the system was designed as of October 2017 to open service transactions. So if my client goes to another provider, they could pull up the service transactions and see that I gave this client a bus pass, even though they're saying I did not. So this is just open for anyone to see. So all I'm going to do for housing search assistance is do housing applications. And as we know, we already did a detailed case notes with our meeting discussion and what we did. This is just for the service transaction. A lot of times you may just select case management as a service type. And if there's ever something that's not in the drop down when you're looking for a service transaction, just give us a quick call at the coalition and we'd be happy to help customize that for you. Okay, all of these other questions, the costs and funding source, as well as support documentation and follow-up information, can be skipped. You just want to go back all the way down to the bottom where it says need information. Now this is where it gets confusing. So we know that the need goal was housing. And when we set that goal, we added a service of housing search assistance. When we create a service, it automatically creates a need. So what this is asking is housing search assistance. What did you do? You provided a service of housing applications. So that client had a need of finding applications and you fulfilled the need. So it's closed. The outcome of the need, okay, what happened? Did you provide the applications? Were you unable to provide the applications? Are you still trying to get applications the person needs? What you want to try to do is just do closed for the need status, and for the outcome need, it's fully met. This demonstrates the client had a need of getting housing applications. You provided services and you helped the client meet their need. And then you click save and exit. After you click save and exit, this screen may be overwhelming. I do want to point out again, there's 2 tabs on the top, one client information and one service transactions. Services are located under the service transaction tab. However, we're going to go back to the case plan tab so we can go back to see exactly what we just did by adding that service. When we go to client information, we see our tabs again, and we come up and we go to case plans. And now we see in case plans, this client, Mickey Mouse, has a goal of housing. It was added and it was set on this day. Your note is here. You have an option of clicking it to view it. If there was a bunch here, you could always print it for their case files. And then the latest note date. So sometimes clients will have a lot of goals. The latest note date will help you identify which goal was worked on most recently. What we're going to do is click on the pencil for our goal. And this is also another way you can add case notes. So if I wanted to add another case note, I could do so by clicking here and typing in another note. Same with service. And I want to show how the last time we did a case note, we clicked add a service. That service now shows up here in this person's goal. So all the services we provide to help this client meet this goal are all tracked on one page. And this is perfect when it comes time for a review with your clients or anything, because you can just print this page. Okay. And you can click save and exit on the bottom. And that's case plans. So we've done everything in the system possible to create this client. This is when I click home on the left-hand side, I had a goal of Mickey Mouse as of 12/25 that by 1/8/19 I would help him by doing a full SPDAT with him. So that reminder shows up on my home page. Of course, we've backdated, so it looks like it's past due. However, when it's counting down, it'll literally count down number of days until this goal is due. Okay, and now you'll see on the bottom on my counts report that we set up in the first training video on your homepage dashboard that our client, Mickey Mouse, is now listed here as our client. So I don't have to search for him again. I can click on my clients and click on his client ID. Whenever this box pops up, the majority of the time, you're just going to use current system date or click on the X unless you need to go into backdate mode. Okay. And now if I wanted to favorite him, I would click on the star. And then when I go home, not only do I have this, my favorites are here. Now it doesn't say his name, but if I scroll over it, I get all of his information.